Thank you and welcome everybody. I'm here today, Fredrik Tiberg. I'm the CEO of Camurus since 2003 and have been part of the development of this company, and we are at the very interesting stage of our development. We have what we believe is a game-changing product for treatment of opioid dependence, CAM2033-2038, in registration phase in the US, Europe and Australia, and I will try to give you a presentation of this product as well as our general development within the company. But before going into details about CAM2038, I want to talk a little bit about the company and our pillars of success. As you see here, we have a very strong platform technology which we call Fluid Crystal. It has been validated now in more than 20 clinical trials and proven to be safe and tolerable and provide interesting and functional effects in treatment of a number of different diseases. Based on this fluid crystal technology, we have developed a broad late-stage R&D pipeline. Currently, we have more than 10 clinical programs in development covering areas such as addiction, pain, cancer, obesity, endocrine and cardiovascular disease. So a very broad pipeline, and we are also looking at a potential approval now in the opioid dependence space during 2018, as I said. In advance of that approval, we are also building a commercial organization in Europe, and we at this point have all the leadership in place. Richard Jameson, who is here together with me, our Chief Commercial Officer, has developed a very strong team for Europe, and we are now fully operational for a potential 2018 launch of CAM2038. In addition to be able to develop all the opportunities we have in the company, we also have a number of strong partnerships. This includes Novartis Pharmaceuticals, Braeburn Pharmaceuticals and Rhythm, which we all have clinical programs together with, as well as, and they provide not only R&D investments and potential for milestones and royalties, but also contribute to building of our overall value offering. We have an experienced management team in place and very strong dedicated teams from development up to commercialization. Looking at the company from a stock market perspective, we currently have a market cap of about 4 billion Swedish crowns. We had a short setback in terms of our US registration, which we are now working on and resubmitting as quickly as possible together with our partner Braeburn Pharmaceuticals. Our cash position is strong with 370 million, and we have an OPEX of about 25 million crowns per month 2017. Our employees are currently 70 in the company, and we are headquartered in Lund, Sweden. So what are we working with? Our main focus is long-acting medications. Long-acting medication address a lot of key healthcare issues. For opioid dependence as well as many other diseases, one of the key challenges is compliance, that is remembering to take your medication daily or several times per day. This is completely avoided by long-acting medications where you can give a small dose injection and have treatment effect over an entire month or a week, depending on your target. They also address potential for better treatment outcomes, which is important, and not the least, patient convenience. It is, of course, much more convenient to have administration of a drug product every month than having to remember it every day. And just to illustrate the importance of this area, I can say that if you're looking at the depot products, long-acting medications today, it's more than 50 billion Swedish crowns in overall sales at this moment. So it's a very substantial market where a lot of the sales are in the CNS area, obviously, where there are medical needs, but also in other indications such as endocrine disease, metabolic disease, and so forth. So what is our solution to this? We have developed a very interesting system. It's actually a simple liquid, but it's a very smart liquid, because when it comes in contact with body tissue, it transforms itself into an encapsulating gel immediately on injection. Through that encapsulation, the drug active compound is then trapped and does not get released until the body is degrading the matrix, and then the active component is then slowly released over time. And by controlling the composition of this lipid liquid, we can actually control the rate, so it goes from weekly duration to monthly duration, for instance. Due to the fact that it's a simple liquid, it's easy to administer, it has a rapid onset, but still long-acting release, giving us special advantages in many indications where you want to have rapid onset but still have a long-acting effect. It's also applicable across substance classes, so we can work with small proteins, peptides, as well as small molecule drugs. It has so far shown a very good safety profile, and we can use standard manufacturing processes, which enables us to more effectively develop drug products. Just looking at what this achieves in terms of release of an active compound. If you take an ordinary peptide, this is sandostatin IR here, and you can see the pharmaceutical levels or the drug levels in the blood. They go up very quickly but then just die out. So if you want to have a treatment effect of this compound in this situation, you would need to take repeated injections several times per day. If you take the same peptide and you put it in our fluid crystal system, you can see what happens. You have a slow release. In this case, we're showing for 30 days, very continuous, like an infusion. It's a completely different shape, and here you could have treatment effect for 1 month instead. So going from repeated injections to 1 injection per month, this is a clear value proposition for most patients. So what is our business model? To enable effective development of our drug products and drug product candidates, we combine clinically documented compounds, so compounds that we know are efficacious in the particular indication of interest or are safe in that indication, together with a validated proprietary technology. And this technology is now on the verge of being introduced in the first product, and we think that we have a strong value enhancement. Looking in this space, it is more than, I would say 20 years ago since there came something really new and innovative in the long-acting depot technology space. So, what have we done with this technology? We have created a very diversified late-stage R&D pipeline. Our lead program is, of course, CAM2038. Here we have developed both a weekly injection, because that's important in some indications and some patient groups, especially at the early stage of treatment, and a monthly. We have taken them to registration phase in the US, Europe, and Australia, the most important markets currently for opioid dependence treatment, addressing huge unmet needs, but also providing us with potential short-term revenues. So our US partner, Braeburn Pharmaceuticals, for instance, in conjunction with approval, will have a $35 million approval milestone coming from this project, enabling us to also work with our other developments. We are also working in the chronic pain area. Very interesting project, high unmet need. Long-acting medications can provide continuous round-the-clock pain relief. And here we are in the middle of phase 3. We will deliver results during Q2 this year for this project, and we have very good hopes here. Together with Novartis, we have finished phase 2 development of of our CAM2029 product, which is a long-acting octreotide for neuroendocrine tumors and acromegaly. And Novartis are continuing their preparations for start of phase 3, having FDA meetings in this time period to finalize the study designs and other preparations. We have a number of other programs. Here we are in the discussions about out-licensing in the chemotherapeutic induced nausea and vomiting space. We're planning the continuation of our post-operative pain studies. And we are also having some very interesting orphan indications together with Rhythm Pharmaceuticals, a company from Boston. We're developing a long-acting product for treatment of rare genetic disease. And in addition to that, we just recently started a very exciting project directed at pulmonary arterial hypertension, also an orphan indication, with a mean survival of about 2.7 to 3 years untreated, where we have created a long-acting formulation of treprostinil, a currently used and approved drug compound. In addition, we have a medical device on the market for treatment of cancer side effects. The topic of this discussion is, of course, opioid dependence, and we believe weekly and monthly buprenorphine depots, which we are developing, is not only a potential, but will be a game changer in the treatment of opioid dependence. This is, as you have heard from the previous speakers, an enormous problem. It's very much, over and above what anybody could expect. We are now seeing the death figures in the US rising very rapidly, with 44,000 people dying in 2016 of opioid overdoses, and even more of other drugs of abuse. Unfortunately, this trend is not only occurring in the US. If you're looking at the Swedish figures from the Tox Institute, you can see that we are seeing a very similar development in overdoses. And a lot of this is due to the fact that fentanyl and very potent opioids are coming out on the streets, and you need very small quantities to get respiratory depression. So this is real, and it's a very big global problem. You're seeing it in Australia, you're seeing it in Sweden and other European countries. Opioids are the largest society burden of all drugs. It's a public health epidemic in the US, and patients really need better access to care and new treatment choices. This is fundamental to be able to tackle this global problem. And we know also that investment in treatment brings significant value. I mean, calculations, healthcare economical calculations say that investment of $1 into treatment creates between $2 and $12 in return for society. So this is a very good investment. We know, and we have heard about this earlier from Nikolai, that current medication-assisted treatment is effective. It reduces illicit opioid use, it decreases mortality, it limits the spread of blood-borne disease, it improves quality of life of patients. It's a huge difference to be on the street, being dependent on heroin, or being in treatment. It completely transforms the lives of patients. It improves public health, social functioning, reduces crime. And these are huge costs for society. However, current MAT treatment has also significant limitations. First of all, it's very difficult for these patients to go daily and take their tablets. Remember them? Have they given them away to friends and sold them to somebody? As soon as you come into withdrawal, the first thing, the natural thing a patient does is trying to find a new fix, a new heroin dose or a new anything to take away these problems. It is also burdensome and stigmatizing. In Sweden, for instance, you have to go to the clinic either daily or several times per week and show that you are clean before you can receive treatment. With an injection that comes weekly or monthly, you avoid all that stigma. And you don't have to meet your dealer outside the door where you have been and getting your recipe. It also has potential for changing a lot of the problems associated with medication-assisted treatment, because methadone, as well as buprenorphine, are spread and misused and sold illegally on the streets. for the wrong reasons. So for this reason, we can also reduce a lot of the issues in society around current treatment. And also there are stringent patient treatment rules. Patients drop out of treatment because they have to go. Imagine if you have to go to vacation, you have to be in your clinic every day or 3 times per week. It's not easy to combine that with an active life and a quality life. And also there is a lot of regulations. And these people are also impaired in the decision making, making this even more important. Looking at CAM2038, it's a unique treatment, small volume injection with either a weekly or monthly duration. It's an individualized treatment. So you, depending on your treatment schedule, if you have the weekly visits, you can take the weekly dosing. If you have monthly visits, you can take the monthly dosing. And it's adopted to best clinical practice guidelines. As I said, it's a small dose volume injection. The injection volume is between 0.15, so very small, to 0.65 milliliter injected under your skin. It's like a small bead under your skin which disappears over time. This enhances adherence to treatment, but also provides rapid onset and continuous treatment effect. It safeguards also against diversion and misuse, and potential misuse by your own children, for instance, in the home, who could get hold of your tablets or other medications that are around. And we also have very strong efficacy data showing that this treatment works and that it provides improved treatment outcomes. So we have done a very extensive clinical program, including head-to-head phase 3 studies against standard of care sublingual buprenorphine. We showed on the primary endpoint that we met both the FDA and EMA endpoints with good margin. We also, in the secondary endpoint, demonstrated that we had superior treatment effect to current treatment. And you can see that in this image here, showing the levels of abstinence after treatment with CAM2038 compared to the current sublingual arm. So in addition to everything else, we also have evidence for improved treatment outcome, less misuse of other drugs in this patient group. We have continuous suppression of withdrawal and cravings. Opioid blockade have been shown from first dose. That means that if you take heroin, you'll not get the euphoria that you usually do, so in that way negatively reinforcing continued misuse. We have a safety profile which is comparable to sublingual buprenorphine. Even more important may be patients like this treatment, and that is of course fundamental. Of the patients in our long-term safety study, those that were transferred from current treatment with sublingual buprenorphine to CAM2038, in the questionnaire, 68% of the patients said that this is a much better treatment than sublingual buprenorphine. 83% were positive, and only 3% thought it was a much worse treatment. I think this is a very strong outcome. But even more strong, I think, is some of the statements we heard from patients, and these are continuously heard from patients. These were some of the statements from our AdCom with the FDA, where we had patient testimonials at the meeting, very moving patient testimonials, and I can recommend you to listen to those if you want to get more insight. But this is one. The biggest thing with the CAM injection is how simple life became and how the obsession to use was gone. For the first time in years, I was not reminded of every day of shame and failure one feels as an opioid addict. The Suboxone tablets were a daily reminder that I hated myself and what I had become. The injection removed that obstacle, and slowly my self-confidence returned. There were many more statements, and the interesting thing is we hear this from Australia, from Sweden, and from the US, where we have done studies. Practitioner has also similar statements about the product. Looking now at the registration and continued work, we had a very intensive 2017, reported positive safety data in May, submitted NDA submissions, approval submissions to FDA and EMA in July, and we were granted priority review by the FDA in September. We had a positive recommendation for approval by the FDA Advisory Committee in November 2017. And then, somewhat surprisingly, I must say, we received a CRL, which is a response letter, where the agency demanded further information from us. We have said that we believe that we have all the necessary information and will return with an updated application as soon as possible. Looking at the European and Australian submissions, they are going according to plan, and we are believing that we will have a positive CHMP decision in Q3 and a potential approval then in both markets in the end of the year. FDA timeline needs to be confirmed with the FDA, and we will do that very shortly, and then we will report on it. But we have an estimated timeline in the direction that we are showing on this plan. Most importantly, we have a very strong comprehensive clinical program. We have had no questions about the efficacy and safety data, and we believe that we have a very strong offering both to the market and to the regulatory authorities. We have a global commercialization plan. Our partner Braeburn Pharmaceuticals is responsible for the US market, and the rest of the markets we have ourselves retained. Our initial focus is Europe, Australia, but we're also having several discussions about other global markets with partners or in own framework. The competition today, we have Indivior, which recently got an approval for Sublocade monthly. We believe we have a very strong product, and which is very competitive in this setting. But also we are very happy to have Indivior on the market, because this is a transformation of the treatment system, and two voices are much stronger than one. And I believe there's a strong synergy working together to convert the market into a new and what we think a better treatment form. Then there are some early developments, but at this point they are far away from the market and potential competition. Looking at the market, if you're looking at the US, this is the prescriptions for maintenance treatment in the US. You can see that in 2017, the last part of 2016 and 2017, there was 13 million prescription for mainly monthly treatment with buprenorphine. If you convert this or the patient numbers with a 25% long-acting injectable share of the market, you can see, and the pricing that is now set by Indivior of $1,500 approximately per month, that corresponds to a market potential of $3 to $4 billion US. So it's a very significant market potential here in the US. Of course, dependent on penetration. We have a large interest in Europe as well. These are looking at how many prescribers would be interested in prescribing a long-acting injectable with this profile of CAM2038, and you can see that overall it's in the high 80s up to 90s. So there is an understanding among the clinicians that this is an attractive treatment. We have large patient numbers, and converting this into a market potential, our estimates based on the information available is around 180 to 250 million euros. Again, a very substantial market in Europe and Australia. We are well on our way to develop our commercial organization. We have the EU leadership team in place. We have full working process going on with market access and medical affairs, and also established regional leadership functions in Central Europe, Northern Europe, and Southern Europe at this moment. A lot of activities going on in 2018 in advance of a potential launch. As I said, we have many other things going for us, and I will try to be quick here, but chronic pain is definitely a very interesting area for CAM2038, and there we're expecting top-line phase 3 data shortly. In addition, of course, we have other interesting opportunities. Novartis is moving forward with acromegaly and neuroendocrine tumors, and we are hoping to see developments in phase 3 as soon as possible. We will be able to communicate the timelines for this better during the summer. We have several combined out-licensing and development opportunities. And as I said, most recently, we have moved forward and Rhythm has produced very interesting results from our first study on the genetic obesity and are also moving forward with that program. Very interesting indication, large market potential, huge unmet need. And also, again, as I said, we have our pulmonary hypertension program where we started a phase 1 study before Christmas. It's a dose-escalating study. And so far we are continuing, which is very good news. And we are hoping to deliver interesting results towards the summer this year. And then, of course, a number of other earlier phase programs. So looking at Camurus and where we are currently, we have a de-risked late-stage differentiated pipeline, multi-billion-dollar specialty markets across a number of interesting indications, strong collaborations with dedicated partners. Of course, Novartis, Braeburn are ones, but we also have others, Rhythm, Solasia, and earlier phase programs. Emerging commercial organization with a strong leadership on board, and multiple potential levers for future value creation. This includes approvals of CAM2038 in the US, EU and Australia, phase 3 programs in pain, acromegaly and NET, and advancement of early phase programs. We have our anticipated CAM2038 launches, and as I said, a solid financial position with no debt. That is the finish line of this presentation.